So the last couple of months have really been something. I've been doing a lot of work lately on several different projects. Still learning Swift, doing some writing on passages, um, and stuff like that. So I do apologize for being kind of out of it or
The
out of the
time is now
picture
4 p.m.
lately. But this past Friday, something incredible happened. So my family member needed a new car. We were looking at Lexus, BMW, Alfa Romeo, which I immediately dissuaded them from after reading that some of those actually broke before they even left the dealer lot. Um, so let's even see BMW, Lexus, Alfa, Mercedes. We're looking at Mercedes. Um, but we didn't get any of those. What we got was a Tesla Model 3. Okay. We ended up with a Tesla Model 3. It's not the one in this picture. Obviously, it's a lot more subdued than this one, but we've had the car now for 48 hours. We took delivery on Friday, and I remember we walked into the dealership, the store, I should say, because they don't really have dealerships as we think of them. So we walk into the store, we sit down in the waiting room, and then they call us up. We sign the papers. Then we ended up going to the delivery garage. I cannot express how incredible this is because I love the sound of a V6 or a V8. The volume I can honestly be kind of picky about because of my extremely sensitive hearing, but the sound, love it. But is it worth it in the long term? For that sound, you're polluting more, you're using more oil. I don't think it's worth it. Neither did this particular family member, so we decided to go with a Tesla, and I wasn't the only one to suggest this because in that delivery garage, there were about, I'd say, somewhere between half a dozen and a dozen Model 3s all ready for delivery. And where did they stick us? All the way over in the very back corner. But I was still completely awestruck about how many Teslas were just sitting there waiting to be delivered to their new homes. And it says something. It says something, okay? Elon Musk, love him or hate him, he's doing, I think, some incredible work, okay? Um, One of the things that I personally have come to realize over the last month because we placed the order back in early November and we took to the delivery this past Friday at the time of this recording. And in my research preparing for this, because I'm basically home technical support for this particular family member, anything that's primarily technology based, you're looking at them as far as, you know, who you call to help. So I was doing my research, reading the manual, and watching videos, and I noticed I came to realize something, and I know a lot of others have too. Tesla is the Apple of the automotive world. In fact, lately I've been thinking to myself, I wonder what would happen if Steve Jobs and Elon Musk had met. Now, I do realize that Elon had started things back with the original Roadster in 2009, so there's a chance they could have met. But I don't, unfortunately, Steve Jobs never lived to see the Model S or the Model 3 or the upcoming Model Y or Cybertruck. And I just keep wondering what would these two genuinely brilliant minds, from a design and engineering standpoint, what would these two brilliant minds, um, how would they see things? Would they join forces? It's really interesting because think about it. Tesla and Apple have a lot in common: proprietary software, their own ecosystem. In the Tesla's case, that's the supercharging network, as well as the barrage of accessories that I've found on Amazon. Um, and much to the detriment, I think, cult. Well, I don't know if I want to call it a cult. It's a fan base, okay? It's a fan base. But so why did we decide on the Tesla? Number one, we as a family are very proactive when it comes to wanting to keep up to date with the latest stuff, especially me. In fact, this particular family member has tasked me with keeping them up to date. So we figured if we were going to do this, that we may as well just go with the Tesla because of the supercharging network, because of the range. In fact, just before we put in the order for the Model 3, I'd read about a software update that gave an additional 15, 20 miles of range. And just the ability to update the software and get extra range out of that, I mean, that is just incredible. I know a lot of the other automakers are slowly but surely catching up. And in 10 years, who knows? Things may have flip-flopped. It may no longer be Tesla. It may be Ford, or it may be Rivian, or it may be, somebody else who doesn't even exist yet, who may be on top. But for now, Tesla is they're as ubiquitous as Apple. It's just incredible what has happened. So we've had the car now for 48 hours. So far, my relative, who's the primary driver, loves it. Just loves it. And I love it too. It's quick. It's quiet. We got the dual motor long range. It's quick and quiet. It's comfortable. I just love the seats. I love the view. I love that glass roof. But it's just incredible. So the car itself, it takes some getting used to. I will not sugarcoat it. It does take some getting used to, especially if what you're coming from is a traditional gas car and you've never even experienced a hybrid. If you go from gas to electric, hybrid's sort of an in-between. We skipped over that stepping stone and went straight to electric, and it's different. It's different in a good way. And honestly, I think it's just I can't even put into words how this feels. Now, I am personally not a fanboy of Tesla, okay? At all. Nor am I a fanboy of Apple. The reason I keep using Apple for year after year after year is because of their prowess in out-of-the-box accessibility. And the reason we went with the Tesla, again, has to do with the supercharging network and their range for the dollar, right? And like I said, in 10 years, that may have flip-flopped. We may end up flipping everything on its head. So there's really no way to tell. A lot of these new electric cars are so new, there's really no way to tell how they're going to go in the long term. Excuse me. Just had lunch. But you get where I'm going. I mean, just in general, it's just incredible what Musk and his company have done. In fact, I would have to say that if I was able to drive, my dream car would be a Roadster. If I had the bucks to put down, I would get a white Roadster without the rear seats. I would not get the SpaceX package because I would not want the rear seats, because to my knowledge, that thing doesn't have a frunk. It doesn't have a frunk, and I think that's a bit of a downside, to be honest. Especially if this is supposed to be the most usable supercar. Now, maybe the production version will have a frunk. Who knows? I don't know. Me personally, if I had a Roadster, I would never take the top off because I would prefer being dry. So I would never take the top off. If it had a frunk, I think it would be more than adequate storage for two people. Like I said, I would not get the back seats. And the 600 miles of range, I mean, that would be a perfect GT car. And I keep wondering, how are Bugatti and McLaren and Lamborghini, how are they all going to respond to this? Once the Roadster is out, that's the big question. What do you think is going to happen? As far as the Cybertruck goes, I see it definitely more as a commercial application than a residential application. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't be used for residential use, but when I say commercial, let me put it to you this way. Abu Dhabi's United Arab Emirates, I'm sorry, the other way around. So Abu Dhabi's police department, excuse me, I didn't mean to misspeak. So Abu Dhabi's police department has purchased a collection of these things, these Cybertrucks, for use in their police force. And they're not the only ones doing Teslas. California is using the Model S. There's a department in Indiana that's using the Model 3. There are a lot of taxi cab companies around the world that are adopting Tesla. I mean, wow, right? Just wow. Back to the personal experience that I've had in the last 48 hours. Like I said before, the person who's driving this, they absolutely love it. And we both think that we made a good choice on this one. It's not perfect, though. Nothing ever is. And if you're expecting perfection, you're delusional. I'm sorry, but I feel that perfection doesn't exist. So what sort of things could I personally see as an improvement? Well, number one is the charger. Okay, so here's what happened. We contact the electrician, and he installs. Well, first of all, when we let me back up. When we're in the Tesla store, we ended up going with the 24-foot supercharger because we Accord supercharger or home charger. I am losing my mind. The 24-foot home charger because we didn't know where it was going to be placed. Okay, we were expecting a completely different location in our garage than where it ended up. And because it ended up where it did, the 24-foot cord is a little bit big. Now, they do have an 8-foot connection, but the thing is that might be a little small. See the problem? So what I think the charger could use is a bit of a tweak on the design to include a spring-loaded roll-away cabling system, like a cable winder, like this USB here. You just unwind, and then when you're done charging, you and like that. So I suspect the reason they probably don't is to avoid heat buildup, because when you're charging off of a 240-volt circuit, there's going to be a fair amount of heat. Now, to minimize that possibility of heat issues, we turn down the charging rate by about half, which for us in day-to-day use is more than perfect for what our needs, because we found in the last 2 days we haven't used more than 4% of the battery. So I think for around town, keeping everything where it is going to be perfect. If we go out on a trip, obviously we're going to want to maybe adjust the charging schedule and the rate and such, but we haven't yet taken it out on a trip. We're probably going to do that soon. If we do, I'll definitely report back and let you know how it goes. But I think that for the design of the charger, they need to include a cable winder of some kind. And it's kind of, in my opinion, it stinks that Tesla has not included that as part of the package. So I don't know. For the moment, everything seems to be perfectly fine. In time, if things change, obviously, we could take the charger out, put a NEMA 1450 plug into the portable charger, and put an outlet in the garage. I mean, it's hard to say. You know, this is very, very new to everybody. You know, for instance, my area recently exploded with Model 3s, and it really took us by surprise. They're beginning to be as common a sight in my area as Honda Civics or as Nissan Altimas. Okay, that's how big they've gotten around here. It's just amazing. So I think that Tesla would do well to maybe tweak their charger design a little bit and include a cable winding system of some sort. Maybe instead of having the cable stick out, maybe include like a plug that you could unplug and then plug back in with a sort of a door to protect the insides. So that the idea is that you push up on the door when you plug in the cable, and that way you can have your cable winding system and not have to worry so much about heat, because you could unwind it completely when you're ready to charge, and then when you're done, you unplug it on both ends, and then like I showed you before. For those of you who cannot see, I've got a USB cable winder. So you got it unplugged. You got it plugged in. You're charged. You're done. You unplug it, and oof. So I think it would be really nice to have a system like that. Other than that, I really can't complain. I mean, everything so far has just been perfect. The only other glitch that we've had so far is before we got the phone keys programmed, we were using the key cards. And for some strange reason, my key card didn't take, at least we didn't think it took, because for some strange reason the car decided to reboot. Don't know why. The good news is that I've heard that even through a reboot, you can still drive the car so you're not stranded. The only disconcerting thing is that you wouldn't be able to take a look at your vitals. But, as I understand it, that only lasts for about 30 seconds or a minute if it does end up doing a restart. I don't think in the long term that's going to be a problem. So really, those are the only things that we've found as having a problem. And oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. But no, I think that I think that so far everything is going well. Now, in terms of charging, this is not the one for our particular vehicle, but I just wanted to show a screenshot here of the charging screen. Initially, we set the charge rate to 90% because I genuinely didn't know how much we were going to use. Okay. Now that we've had it for a few days, and I can see that around town doing errands, we only use maybe 4 or 5%. I've reduced the charge cap to 80, and we're just going to let it. We're just going to let it wind down just a little bit before plugging it back in and have the new charge limit at 80. And I think that'll be better for the battery in the long run. So it's just incredible, though, what can be done with this technology. I mean, I just found out just last night through another video that there's a feature where if you lend the car to somebody and they get locked out, you could actually unlock it for them and allow them access, which is... I really don't have any words. I mean, this is just incredible. Now, quick little question. Did we get the full self-driving? No. No, we did not. The reason is because the person whose primary name is on the vehicle didn't feel it was worth the extra $7,000. And me personally, I have to agree with them. Because right now, the self-driving can only be done on the freeway. It is not available for around town use. And in my case, having it for around town use would be a must before I'd be able to really take advantage of it. Plus, it must be foolproof. Okay? Basically, in order for me to use it, honestly, we'd have to have the option of purchasing a Tesla without a steering wheel. And, allow me to set my destination on my phone, get into the car, tap a few things on the screen, and off you go. Now, legally, can I drive? Yes and no. In a parking lot, I can, and I've driven cars in the parking lot. I've driven, my family's lawn tractors, and we have a couple of boats up at our summer house. So can I drive? Yes. Can I drive legally? Excuse me. Can I drive legally? No. And that's because, obviously my vision. But I've been watching this space for the last couple of years, and self-driving for me is going to have to be an absolute must. In fact, so like I said, this Tesla is primarily my family members, and so far we are loving it. But if it were 100% me, let's say the family member wasn't involved, right? Let's say I was going to get my own Tesla, okay? So what would I get? I would get a Model Y. I would probably get a Model Y because I'd like to have the extra storage in the back. And And also the other interesting thing we're still getting used to, and I think it might just be because I've got my seat set too low. I'm still trying to figure out how to work the seats. But it feels like when you get into it, it feels like you're climbing into a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, or some other low-slung sports car. It definitely doesn't feel like a conventional sedan at all, which is it's interesting. Like I said, the seats are comfortable. You could bring your legs out, but at the same out in front of you, stretch your legs out. It's a nice ride, but at the same time, getting in and getting out is a little bit of a challenge for me. And like I said, I don't yet know how to adjust the seats. I mean, like I've read the manual, but it's still a little confusing. Because we haven't had power seats in any vehicle for the last 15 years. So we're trying to get back to. See, my mother owned an old Chrysler minivan back when I was little. That had power seats. That had lighted vanity mirrors. That had a lot of the things this Tesla has, and of course this Tesla has more. But because we haven't been used to the technology for the last, over a decade, we're getting used to it again, and it's a change. It is a change. But no. So I'd probably go for the Model Y because of the slightly higher seating position. I would do the long range, and would I get the dual motor all-wheel drive? I don't know, and there's a reason for that. We go to next. So what would I do? I would keep everything on the down low. I would keep it white. I would keep the gray wheels. And I know a lot of people say stylistically they're kind of meh, but I am not touching any of that. I will say I would go for the white interior because of where I live. It gets really hot in the summer. And I would go for the 5-seat interior because, like I said, I'd want to have that extra space in the back for cargo. So you notice, aside from the interior, I'm keeping everything default. Why is that? Because of this. Full self-driving. I would spend the additional money and get the full self-driving because the Model Ys are supposed to come out with the full self-driving, including city driving and whatnot. And whether or not that happens, it's going to take, I think, several years before we reach level 3 autonomy or level 5 or whatever they're calling it. Like I said, I would need to have that, or at the very least, be able to trust the computer to help me. Essentially having the computer be my right eye, if that makes sense. Okay? I would need to have the computer be my right eye. And that is why I would personally want to go with the full self-driving option. Now, full self-driving on a long-range Model Y with nothing added except for the premium interior, you're looking at $56,000. Okay, so that ain't cheap. But given where Tesla is in terms of the whole automation thing, I would say it's money well spent. Again, this is hypothetical if I were to get my own vehicle without anybody else's involvement. Because like I said, this Model 3 is my family members. So, but it does bring about an interesting question. With the ability to do self-driving, right? If one could be approved for driving in limited conditions, does the Tesla have enough of a usability factor, let's say, to become somebody's missing vision, right? Could the Tesla help somebody with not no vision, okay? We're still years away from that. But if you're like on the fence, as I am, legally speaking, I am right at the fence of whether or not I can drive legally. It makes me wonder whether or not the Tesla self-driving system could take over, could be my right eye, like I said. And as such, could that technology be an assistive technology? So that's my experience thus far with the Model 3. Again, 48 hours, still very brand new, still got the new car smell, still learning a lot. As time goes on, I will give you updates. But yeah, if it were completely 100% me, like if I let's say get my own apartment, I want to get something for myself, and I was able to, I would get the Model Y with self driving. But what do you guys think about all of it? What do you think of the Model 3? What do you think of that business about the charger being redesigned to have a cable winder? What do you guys think about my idea to whether or not, if you qualify, whether the Tesla could be seen as an assistive technology and be paid for by the state? Again, under certain circumstances. Again, like I said, you meet you're barely on the edge of the requirements to drive, right? But the Tesla could help aid in that. If that's the case, do you think a car could be seen as assistive technology? Now, a lot of people would say, "Oh, just use Uber or Lyft." Um, you know, the technology is great, but eventually, you know, there's no telling when it's going to fail. And as such, if you're dependent upon Lyft or Uber, and the cell network goes down, how are you going to catch your Uber? Whereas with the Tesla, you at least have a backup in the form of the key card where you could at least go somewhere. You wouldn't necessarily have your phone key or any remote access, but you would still have access to the vehicle because of the physical backup key. So, yeah, I'm very curious as to what you guys think. Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.